Okay, so now we're going to continue with our discussion of 14 ethical principles. Now, I'm giving you only very brief discussions of these 14 ethical principles. You know, you could write a whole doctoral dissertation and spend your whole life studying any one of these 14 ethical principles. I'm just trying to give you a basis for understanding ethical decision making. The way you use these is typically through combining them in different ways. I'll talk a little bit more about that towards the end of this module. But you can use them as like a checklist. Is this right or wrong? Well, I don't know. According to the ends means ethic, it seems to be okay, but is that outweighed by the categorical imperative and the proportionality ethic? So you can kind of weigh these things out. It gives you a way of understanding that there are different perspectives in every single decision when you use ethics. So there's no right or wrong answer. I typically think you should blend them and then use the critical discussions approach, or critical questions approach. So the first one is the categorical imperative. The categorical imperative, it comes from Emanuel Kant, who is a German philosopher. And it basically says you should only act according to certain kinds of things which are right all the time. Okay. So certain kinds of behavior are always right and certain kinds of behavior are always wrong, no matter what. This should sound like to you a lot like ethical universalism. Okay. Of course, the criticism behind it is the theory is generally inflexible, it's dogmatic. And you kind of think about why the categorical imperative even comes from Emanuel Kant. Emanuel Kant lived in a town called Kunisburg, which is now in Kaleningrad. If you ever look at a map of Europe, kind of next to Germany and next to Poland, there's this little area on the Baltic Sea that belongs to Russia, even though it's not really directly connected by land to Russia. And that is Kaleningrad, which was Kunisburg when it still belonged to Germany. And Emanuel Kant made absolutely no variation in his daily routine. The story was he took the exact same the exact walk every single day on the beach and took the exact same number of steps to go where he was going and come back. I mean, the guy really, didn't have any variation at all in his routine. Let me give a couple of examples of this, maybe a colloquial example. So when I was a little boy, my grandma was visiting. I must have been 6 or 7. And as a little boy, I might have lied, fibbed, exaggerated just a little bit periodically. My mom had gotten sick of it. So she'd say, "Don't lie." I'd say, "I wasn't lying, I was just joking." I'm sorry, I wasn't lying, I was just teasing. And my mom would say, "Teasing is lying." Then she'd say, "Don't lie." And I'd say, "I was just joking." And she'd say, "Joking is teasing, teasing is lying." And there was no exception to that. And I remember there I was as a kid. We'd had a nice dinner out. Mom, Dad, Grandma and I were all in the car, and I had been relatively good that day. And Mom took me to Baskin-Robbins. And you may remember those little pink spoons that Baskin-Robbins gives out when you have the sample. And so I was sitting in the back, and my grandma kind of joked, and she said, "Well, that's a big spoon." And I said, "Mom, Grandma lied." And my mom said, "No, honey, Grandma was just joking." I said, "Joking is teasing, teasing is lying." And I got Grandma. So I felt like I'd caught Grandma doing something bad. This is an example why the categorical imperative doesn't always work. Okay. I think about it in the workplace, right? Some of my colleagues and I have debates about what is the appropriate use of the printer. And it's generally wouldn't be seen as appropriate to print off all of your personal tax returns on a work printer, or print off things strictly for personal use that are of no benefit at all to the university. But then, is it okay to print things off for students or not? Well, according to categorical imperative, you really shouldn't be printing anything that's not directly for you and your research. But if it's for your students, is that not okay because printing off personal things is not okay and you're doing something for the students and not directly for your own research? So you see, this is kind of a gray area that can be shown with the categorical imperative. So we can always think of exceptions to any sort of a moral or ethical rule, But according to the categorical imperative, you cannot make any exceptions at all, which in my opinion is unfortunate. Great. We will continue in our next video with the conventionalist ethic.